Hey, what's up everybody? It's Gwen and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be doing a medical school advice video. I'm currently a first year medical student, and so yeah, I thought I would make a video about getting into medical school and some tips and tricks that I have for you guys. So if you're interested in finding out my tips, please keep on watching. Okay, so I'm going to go from about high school to the time when you'll be applying, which is usually your second to last or last year of college, maybe even after. All right, so let's start with high school. So for high school, I would say get any type of clinical experience. What I'm talking about is volunteering in a clinical setting. So the clinical settings that I volunteered in weren't in high school though, they were in undergrad during college. But for high school, I would say just get any type of volunteer work, literally anything. Like I worked in summer camps, just anything you're doing in your community. I think it's really important and it's good to show on your resume, also on your application for medical school. They do focus mainly on the things that you've been doing in undergrad, but I think it's good to start in high school so that you'll have those connections that you can use throughout college as well. Okay, so college. When it comes to choosing a college, I would say if you have a college that's really good at making doctors or has a affiliation with a medical school or hospitals, I would say go for that. But I was able to go to a college that does not have any, well, they have some affiliations, but I did not go to that particular school that they were affiliated with. So it just depends on what you want to do. However, do go to a school that has a pre-med program. They're going to be able to put you in the classes that you need, and they'll have advisors. So they'll have people who will be able to help you throughout the journey. So for undergrad, I think the biggest advice I could give for you is to save as much money as possible. I had an academic scholarship, so all I had to pay was room and board. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea because we all know that med school is expensive. So do scholarships, things like that. I think it's really important. For undergrad, just, go through the regular classes. It is true that you can go to medical school without majoring in biology. However, you have to take the MCAT, which is the medical school it's the MCAT. You have to take it. So you have to take that. And in order to be able to do well on that test, you have to have studied certain subjects such as biology, physics, chemistry, and now sociology and physiology. No, sociology and psychology are the subjects that you have to have taken a class in. I believe it's required. You have to take a certain amount of hours in undergrad in those classes. So you can major in whatever you want. Just keep in mind that you're going to have to pay to take these other classes that will help you be prepared for the MCAT. So I took the MCAT 3 times total. I took the old version and then the new version as well. I think 2015 was the year that it was the new one. So I only took the old version once, and then the new version I took twice. And the third time I got a good enough score. So yeah, I can make a separate video on the MCAT later on. But as far as when I took it my junior year and then my senior year, and then right after I graduated pretty much. I graduated in May and then I took it the next September. I recommend, I was not able to study and be in school at the same time. I had a full-time job and I studied, so I was able to do that, but I was not able to do undergrad and study for the MCAT. And I don't know if that was just, my laziness / I'm not able to schedule it right. I feel like it varies person to person what you're able to do. So I say if you take it during school and you don't do that well, it's okay. You have times you can take it again. I would say the maximum times you should take it is 3 times, and you should not be doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so now we are at your junior and senior year. Hopefully by this time you have, been doing all the regular classes and you have been talking to your advisor. I would say the biggest thing is to make sure you shadow and make sure you do some type of internship in the clinical experience, in the clinical setting. So for me, there was a kind of free cancer screening clinic. And so I did an internship with them. You are able to do things that are not on your school's area. So for me, I did one at home. I really had to just make the internship myself because my school wasn't very helpful. So yeah, that goes back into choosing the right school, right? So yeah, I would say have an internship or some type of research if you can. I have not ever I'm doing research right now in medical school, but I have not done any in undergrad. I say the easiest way is to literally go up to every teacher and say, hey, do you have a research lab? I say it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as it's some type of research. I was able to get into school, medical school, without research, but I would definitely say it's something important. It's something that they look for. It's one of those things where it's not on the requirements, but it's kind of like an underlying requirement, like in your head it's required. It's very favored in the medical school application process. In addition to research, I would say just keep on racking up those clinical experiences. But I would say by this time, high school, you don't really know what you're doing yet. But I would say in college for sure, since you're doing these classes, you know that you are going to the medical field. So you need to be making sure that you do volunteer work that is relevant. For me, I stopped doing the summer camps. I did some, but I tried to incorporate science as much as I could in those experiences. So they had programs that were like health and wellness for kids and things like that. Things I would be able to work into my application so it seems relevant. Okay, so you have your clinical experience, you have your volunteer work, you have your letters of recommendation. That's another thing. You need to be talking to your own general practitioner, your regular doctor, any family doctors, anybody that you know that is a doctor that would be able to write a letter of support for you is very important. I would say the most important thing is the letter of recommendations. You're going to need a science professor. You're going to need some type of person that's not related to you. I would say just rack up those letters and just have them. They're really good and you're able to use them again and again usually. But okay, so when it comes to being a doctor, there is MD and there is DO. So you have allopathic doctor and osteopathic doctor. They're the exact same thing as far as what type of classes you have to take in order to graduate. However, the osteopathic medicine has the other osteopathic manipulative medicine skill that you have to learn. And along with each education, there is a certain test that you have to take to move into residency. But anyway, that's a little farther down the road. So your applications, the AAMC is the allopathic physician application. This one they're pretty much both the same, but I would say the AAMC had a lot more for me to do. I think because I did that one before I did the AACOMAS, ACOMAS, I think is what it's called, for the DO application, for DO schools. But for the MD schools, you have AAMC. Yeah, each of these applications for the letters of recommendation, the person has to upload them themselves. This is so that you waive access to those letters. They don't want you to be, writing your own letters and then uploading them. They want to make sure that it's a secure submission. So you will have to work with the people to make sure they are getting things in on time and doing things. So it's a lot of running around, I will admit. You have to make sure that everything's in. And when it comes to the deadline, do not listen to the deadline. If you listen to anything in this video, that is the number one tip I can give you. Do not listen to the deadline. If they say it is due March 30th, no, it was due October. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be ready. I think that was a big reason why I was able to get in the second time. I didn't get in the first time that I had my applications, but the second time I did. And I think that was because I was ready to upload it right away. So do not listen to them. They say it's due February. That means they're taking the stragglers at February. They already have their wait list together way ahead of time. So if you learn anything from this video, do not listen to the deadlines. I recommend keeping all of these submissions that you do. Well, first of all, draft them in a Word document before you go through the application, actually fill it out. Yeah, just save it all in a Word document. I have all my pre-med papers in one folder, and I keep these because they're very good. You're going to keep seeing the same questions over and over again. Why do you want to be a doctor? What have you done to help your community? What volunteer work have you done? What was your most meaningful experience? You want to be able to speak about these things that you've done over the years from high school till now, and you want to be able to have good answers for these. These are answers that you're going to use on your application and that you will also be asked again, most likely in the interview. So now you have your application done and you've done it. Now, cost. Okay, so there are general applications, which is what I talked about, and then there are secondary applications. Yes, it is very expensive to apply to medical school, which is why you want to pick and choose where you go. On one hand, they are accepting you into the program, but on the other hand, you are choosing which one is right for you. So you have your application and you sent it in and you've done the secondary applications. Once again, it's basically the same thing. A lot of times it'll be scenarios. So say this happened and you had to resolve this type of conflict. Say you have a physician colleague and they did this thing wrong. How would you fix it? So they're very situation based, and they're kind of stupid because I never really understood all of those types of questions because I feel like there's only one answer, you know? So just say what they want to hear. Honestly, I feel like everyone has the exact same answers. If you're able to make it creative and what they want to hear, I say do that. I remember hearing like someone said, why would you want to be a doctor? And someone put as the answer, why not? And they got in. I don't recommend doing that. I mean, you can if you want. You can see what happens. But I feel like those questions are just an opportunity to say what they want to hear. And I don't think that's a very good representation of what type of student that they would want, in my opinion. But that's how it works. So just say what they want to hear, have a good, good answer. This is where writing comes in. Writing is very important. So it's good to be able to get your point across, tell your story, whatever the case, and deliver it eloquently. Okay, so now you have your applications in, and now you will start to hear back from the schools. So depending on how early you get your application in is how quickly I think that you'll get your responses back. Some schools wait forever. Some schools are pretty good about it. I would say that you should have your application in about August-ish, October, as soon as possible. There are people waiting, from previous years that know what day the application, like the very first day you can submit it, they are waiting. So you are basically competing with the people who have been waiting for this their whole life. So yes, be proactive. And then my interviews were about December, January times. So that's when you will hear for interviews. You will most likely have your interviews over your winter break. That's how I had it. So that is when I had them. And then, like I said, again, I applied again. So I had 2 rounds of applications. The first round, I barely got any. I think it was the due date and perhaps it was the way I wrote it. I don't know. I pretty much used the same application for both processes, like both times. I was able to write a little bit more on the second application, of course. But yeah, I've heard some crazy things, y'all, about the interviews. I've heard some really, really crazy things. I don't appreciate some of the stories I heard. Like one girl was like, he kept asking, okay, so what if you have a patient that's non-compliant? And they were like, okay. She said her answer and they're like, okay, but if that didn't work, what would you do? Okay, if that didn't work, then what would you do? I've heard things where like they have a scenario on the board and they make you walk in and act out a scene or something like that. So I just heard some very, very, very weird things. More than likely it'll be a panel, so about 3 people, or it'll be a one-on-one, or it might be a room like 8 people. I'm not really sure. The only situations I've been in have been one-on-one or 3-on-1. And yeah, the second time around, I only got, I had about 4 or 5 interviews actually. I did think about applying for school in the Caribbean, which is an option. Some people are against that, but I say just do your research and figure out what you're willing to risk, because I heard that, there are some issues with getting placement into a residency after you have a education from the Caribbean, but you never know. I don't think that will be an issue. Some of them are pretty good about making sure everyone gets the same experience and the same opportunity. So yeah, I had 2 from the US and then I had 3 from Caribbean schools. Basically what happened, I got waitlisted for the first 2, the only 2 US schools. I was going to do Caribbean, right? So yeah, I did that, and then I had like paid for everything. I kid you not, I had my lease, everything. And then the number one school I really wanted, called me back and were like, hey, you got accepted. And I was just like, over. So yeah, I got taken off the wait list. So yeah, I think, it just goes to say you have to keep trying. If someone has done it, you can do it too. That's the motto that my mother always tells me, and I live by that every day. I feel like it's possible if someone else has done it. You might have to work a little bit harder. You might have to do something that no one else has to do. That's just the fact of life. You got to get it done. So yeah, I think that's it, you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it helped you out a lot. If it did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and feel free to share this video with anyone else who can benefit, because sharing is caring. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.